Good morning, friends. Welcome to our weekly read and discuss session. Uh, we are reading the few articles today. The first article is the Sonja Lebromersky and the how of happiness. The how of happiness. What makes us happy? How can we become happier? And is happiness sustainable? These are the fundamental questions Sonja L addresses in the how of happiness, submitted Subtitle: A scientific approach to getting the life you want. Note: this is relatively long post, so if you find it more convenient to read in print, here is the PDF version. Wibrowski, a professor of psychology at UC Riverside, who devoted her career as a research scientist to study happiness, believes that our individual level of happiness springs from three primary sources. A. Our genetic set points. 50% of our happiness derives from the genetically determined set points. Labromersky writes, the set points of happiness is similar to the set points of weight. Some people are blessed with skinny disposition even when they are not trying, they easily maintain their weight. By contrast, others have to work extraordinarily hard to keep their weight at a desired level. And the moment they slack off even a bit, the pounds creep back on. So those of us with low happiness set points will have to work harder to achieve and maintain happiness, while those of us with high set points will find it easier to be happy and under similar conditions. B. Our life circumstances. Life circumstances determine a scant 10% of our happiness. Lebermansky continues. Only about 10% of the variance in happiness level is explained by differences in life circumstances or situation. That is, whether we are rich or poor, healthy or unhealthy, beautiful or plain, married or divorced, etc. If with a magic wand we could put a group of people into a same set of circumstances, same house, same spouse, same place of birth, same face, same aches, pains, the difference in the happiness level would be reduced by mere easily 10%. Lyubomirsky notes that this finding runs contrary to many of our efforts to obtain happiness. One of the great ironies of our quest to become happier is that so many of us are focusing on changing the circumstances of our lives in the misguided hope that those changes will deliver happiness. An impressive body of research now shows that we now shows that trying to be happy by changing our life situation ultimately will not work. Why do life changes account for so little? Because of a very powerful force the psychologists call hedonic adaptation. Human beings are remarkably adept at becoming rapidly accustomed to sensory or physiological changes. When you walk in from the bitter cold, the warmth of the crackling fire feels heavenly at first, but you quickly get used to it and may even become overheated. The experience is labeled psychological or sensory adaptation. The same phenomena, however, occurs with hedonic shift, that is, relocation, marriages, job changes that make you happier for a time, but only a short time. Human beings adapt to favorable changes in wealth, housing, and profession, to beautiful or being surrounded by beauty, to good health, and even to marriage. Although we may achieve temporary boosts in well-being by moving to the country, securing raises, or changing appearances, such boosts are unlikely to be long-lasting. Primary reason is that people steadily and rapidly adapt to positive circumstantial changes. The implication is that almost all efforts to increase and maintain happiness through the changes in life circumstances are doomed to fail. Even the most positive changes will eventually be taken for granted as we adapt to them, and the long effects will be minimal. I'll stop here. Do you want to go next, Julie?
Okay, I will. Uh, Intentional activities. The remaining 40% of our happiness is determined by our behavior, intentional activities that we might call happiness strategies. This is the core of Lubomirsky thesis. I would say L from now on. We cannot alter our genetic set point, and changes in life circumstances don't have a lasting impact on our happiness, but we can increase and sustain our happiness through intentional activities. If we observe genuinely happy people, we shall find that they do not just sit around being contented, they make things happen. They pursue new understandings, seek new achievements, and control their thoughts and feelings. In sum, our intentional, effortful activities have a powerful effect on how happy we are. Over and over and above the effect of our set points and the circumstances in which we find ourselves. If an unhappy person wants to experience interest, enthusiasm, contentment, peace, and joy, he or she can make it happen by learning the habits of a happy person. The bulk of the How to Happiness is devoted to exploring a dozen, well, actually 14 activities described by L as evidence-based happiness increasing strategies whose practice is supported by scientific research. 1. Gratitude. 2. Cultivating optimism. 3. Avoiding overthinking and social comparison. 4. Practice acts of kindness. 5. Nurturing social relationships. 6. Developing strategies for coping. 7. Learning to forgive. 8. Increasing flow experiences. 9. Savoring life's joys. 10. Committing to your goals. 11. Practicing religion and spirituality. 12. Take care of your body. Meditation, physical activity, acting like a happy person. I'm not sure why L treats the final 3 taking care of your body activities as a single strategy. There's clearly a relationship among them, but they're also sufficiently distinct to merit separate consideration. Perhaps 12 feels better than 14. L describes precisely what these somewhat generic terms mean in this context, provides a rationale why they work, typically drawing upon examples from her research, and explores what they might look like in practice. She doesn't say that these are the only meaningful happiness strategies, but separately they meet her standard for being, quote, evidence-based, unquote, and together they constitute a list sufficiently broad so that every individual could find a set right for him or her. And L believes it is essential to choose happiness strategies that best address the source of our happiness, that takes the greatest advantage of our strengths, talents, and goals, and that can be adapted most readily to our needs and lifestyles. She offers a person activity fit diagnostic and encourages readers to focus on the 4 strategies with the highest fit scores. I'll stop here.
So what about my happiness? Over the past year, I've felt increasingly happy, and at the moment, I believe I'm happier than I've ever been. Some of this has to do with my life circumstances. I've been blessed with a rich and rewarding marriage, I love my work, and I live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. But according to L, all this has far less of an impact on my happiness than my daily behavior, the intentional activities that I pursue on a regular basis. Although I began reading The How of Happiness because of a project at work, it's been a very personal experience as well. Beginning of 2008, I realized that I wasn't as happy as I wanted to be, and I decided to do something about it. I hadn't yet come across L's research about the importance of intentional activities, but it seemed self-evident to me that I needed to do more things that made me happier in order to be happier, and that's just what I experienced over the course of the year. In December, I became involved with a team that was working on a new class at Stanford, and each member of the team I had to read several books as part of our background research. As I reviewed the list of possible texts, I was immediately drawn to The How of Happiness, and while reading it, I was struck by the parallels between the conclusions she had drawn from her academic research and my own experiences. And although I've always had an intuitive sense about the value of intentional activity, now I'm trying to apply L's findings on happiness strategies to my own life even more deliberately. According to L's person activity fit diagnostic, the four best happiness strategies for me in order are increasing flow experiences and taking care of your body, both tied for first, practicing acts of kindness and expressing gratitude. Increasing flow experiences. First, what do we mean by flow experiences? The concept of flow was initially developed by Haley C. Csikszentmihalyi, currently distinguished professor of psychology at Claremont Graduate University. In Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience, Csikszentmihalyi describes flow as a sense that one's skills are adequate to cope with the challenges at hand, and a goal-directed, rule-bound action system that provides clear clues as to how well one is performing. Concentration is so intense that there's no attention left over to think about anything irrelevant or to worry about problems. Self-consciousness disappears, and the sense of time appears distorted. An activity that produces such experiences is so gratifying that people are willing to do it for its own sake, with little concern for what they will get out of it, even when it is difficult or dangerous. My good friend Doug Edwards, currently working on a dissertation in philosophy that touches on flow, describes the concept this way. A person in flow is absorbed in what he is doing. All of his attention is concentrated on his activity, and his activity proceeds in a seamless, spontaneous, adept way, creating a sense of fluidity in one's action. A key aspect of flow, according to C. So Csikszentmihalyi, is its impact on itself. In our studies, we found that every flow activity had this in common. It provided a sense of discovery, creative feeling of transporting the person into a new reality. It pushed the person to higher levels of performance, and it led to previously undreamed of states of consciousness. In short, it transformed the self by making it more complex. The mechanism underlying this process for transformation is our desire to avoid the unpleasant states of anxiety and boredom. In a flow experience, our skills are adequate to cope with the challenges at hand, creating a sense of balance. But if our skills increase relative to the challenges being posed, the balance tips, and we eventually become bored. If the challenges ramp up while our skills remain static, the balance tips in the opposite direction, and we feel anxious. To avoid anxiety and boredom, then, we must increase our skills in the first case or tackle bigger challenges in the second case. And in both cases, we are transformed. L, who cites Csikszentmihalyi as an important influence, believes that experiencing flow offers several specific benefits. Why is flow good for you? The first reason is obvious, because it is inherently pleasurable and fulfilling, and the enjoyment you obtain is generally of the type that is lasting and reinforcing. Second, because flow states are intrinsically rewarding, we naturally want to repeat them. But to maintain flow, we continually have to test ourselves in ever more challenging activities. We have to stretch our skills or find novel opportunities to use them. This is wonderful because it means that we are constantly striving, growing, learning, and becoming more competent, expert, and complex. L concludes, the experience of flow leads us to be involved in life rather than being alienated from it, to enjoy activities rather than to find them dreary, to have a sense of control rather than helplessness, and to feel a strong sense of self rather than unworthiness. All these factors imbue life with meaning and lend it a richness and intensity and happiness. Okay, now that I understand the concept and its likely positive impact on my happiness, how do I actually experience flow? L offers several suggestions. Control your attention in order to be fully engaged and involved in a given activity Adopt values of openness to new experiences and lifelong learning. Heighten awareness of flow experiences and strive to repeat them. And seek out challenges in your recreation and your work. These all sound potentially rewarding, but they also seem incomplete. My sense is that flow results not only from one, my intentional activities and attitude, but also two, my ability to drop into a flow state in a given moment, and three, specific aspects of the external environment which make it more or less conducive to flow experiences. Al's suggestions address the first element but neglect the other two, and I think it's important to bear them in mind as well. The most intense flow experience I ever had came on a 40-mile stretch of Utah's Route 14, headed west from Long Valley Junction to Cedar City. All right, I'll stop here.
Um, okay, let's discuss this one. I think I got understanding of the pretty first and 2 points. One thing was astonishing about like the genetics at point. I never considered that, but I have noticed if the parents are outgoing, the kids will become outgoing. So that's one of my related example I have seen. Most of the time, I have noticed that if parents are very talkative, kids become talkative. So that's kind of stuff. So, um, and then the second part is um, the other thing is our circumstances. Wondering like only determine 10% of our happiness. That's yeah. I thought it would be more. It should be more, but I mean, yeah, it's I got the psychology that we adapt quickly. So if we buy a BMW, we'll be happy for 8 days, but then we say we are back to okay, it's just a car kind of thing. So I think makes sense that that's what probably we want a bigger houses, bigger everything, like one level to another level. The intentional activities. Uh, I got most of the points. Like I agree, like expressing attitudes. We have been reading about it. Nothing that strikes me something separate, except like one of the thing like commitment to your goal and few things which uh, couldn't I directly correlate something like. But yes, I mean learning to forgive and all really falls into that bucket. Um, yeah, that's from my point of view. Increasing flow happiness. I did not actually really understand this last part of it. To be honest, but yeah, that's it from my side. You want to go next, Andy?
I was just curious about this person activity fit diagnostic, what that's all about. But
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I just, it's like I deliberately give myself things to look forward to for the each next day. So that's what makes me happy. You know, knowing that I have something to look forward to the next day. That's it.
Yeah, that actually that's a great idea. I have been working with another kind of like a 3 people action group, and we actually we don't read anything other than a short inspiration reading, but we talk about our situation, whatever our goals are, and we get feedback. So one of the things I was told to do kind of relates to what you're saying is that I start to look at my talents, and then I also see how they can apply or benefit others. So that's been interesting because who knows? Maybe for you too, Asia is Wendy is in Asians. We're not supposed to look. We're not supposed to look at ourselves and say good things about ourselves at all. You know, that's the opposite of being humble. So it was a very interesting exercise for me. But I also can relate to, it's new to me, Wendy's idea of deliberately looking forward to something the next day. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, actually, yeah, true.
Yeah. So I'm going to write those two things down. Yeah, I think the idea of flow is very interesting because I think part of the idea of meditation is to get into a state of flow, you know. So it doesn't have to be just physical activities. It's just dropping the mind into this state. It sometimes feels lighter, sometimes feels more energetic, and certainly sometimes feel more compassionate, of kindness, or optimistic, you know. And I also found that it was interesting to that only 10% of life's our happiness is affected by life circumstances, and 30% genetics was interesting, but how do we get 40% for as happiness strategies? Because if it's 30% genetics, 10% life circumstances, that leaves 60% for personal strategy. But I thought in the reading it said 40%.
Yeah, yeah.
It's odd.
I missed 20% somewhere.
It's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe later somewhere she must have completed, or
There's another factor that she didn't talk about. I don't know.
uh,
But
but A, B, and C are there.
yeah.
40, 10. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 10, 30, right?
Right.
Right?
10, 30,
Would be 40.
and then 40.
That's 80. Yeah, that still leaves.
That's 80.
Yeah,
so
that's
what happened to the other 20?
That's
That means 20% we can't be happy at all. I mean, we cannot be 100% happy. We can only be 80%
I like that.
happy.
I like that idea. I don't like that as a practice. Yeah, and then also I did do all the exercises for week 3.
Okay.
So I thought that there was 2 really interesting things. One was this woman, Elizabeth Dunn. Did you guys? So she basically she gave people, she's from Canada. So she started off her experiment with giving people $5. And then tell them they had 3 choices or 2 choices. They could, let's say 2 choices. I don't remember the exact experiment. They could either spend the money on themselves. They don't have to choose. They don't get the choice. They're given those options. The option is either to spend the money on themselves or spend money on others. And they found that people who actually spend money on others were happier. And then they went on to say, well, maybe just because North America is so wealthy. So they conducted the same experiment in Uganda.
Oh.
And then they said, well, maybe $5 doesn't mean that much. Maybe we should give a substantial amount. And the same evidence bared out that people who gave away the money were happier than the people who spent it on themselves. So that was very, very interesting. I don't know if it always happens. I think that,
Mm.
there are always exceptions, but it was still an interesting experiment. The other one that was very interesting was what's his name? Nick Epley, who's, I think he's from the University of Chicago,
Mhm.
and uh, he did several experiments on social connection and what
Mhm.
now the University of Chicago on this train ride is a very tough part of the neighborhood. It
Mm.
goes from very, very tough part of the neighborhood into kind of like Wall Street of Chicago, where all the
Oh.
financial center is. So you get a certain diversity of
Mhm.
riders depending on where. So what he made the people do was to be quiet, like solitude. They forced them to talk to other people, and so what they found was the people who were solitude, you think they will be happier? They're not,
Mhm.
even if they do their own work. And was discovered that the people who actually, there's a certain amount of resistance, fear, trepidation to talk to a stranger. And I don't know if he controlled for racial
Mhm.
differences or that, because there's a lot of African
Mhm.
Americans on that train. Um, but the bottom line finding was interesting is the person who initiated the talk was happier, but also the person who participated and responded to the initiation. And I don't know whether they control for people who don't talk, but the
Mhm.
finding was majority of the people don't mind being interrupted.
Mhm.
They enjoy this discussion and makes them happier. So that's why, like on my walk this morning, I
Mm.
actually did that. And what's interesting, people did smile back more.
Yeah.
So that's what I have.
Yeah. That's it. Okay. So let's move on to our next
I
session.
found out how they got the 100%.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
50% is they call genetic set point. 10% is life circumstances, and 40% is intentional activities.
Oh, fit is wait. I thought it was 10% genetics.
Yeah.
No, it's 50%. It's
Oh,
according to
wow.
this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I have to write that. Where is that?
it's where it's A, B, and C. The genetic set point and life circumstances, and
Oh, okay. I read that wrong.
all right,
I read that
all
wrong.
right, all right. Now,
Okay. And hey, Wendy, if
yeah,
you want to Google personal fit diagnostics,
oh yeah,
or
yeah,
what was that? If you want to share that link with us, that'd be great.
yeah. All right.
Okay.
Where the-
Okay. Thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
helped.
Um, moving to our commitment section. So for
Okay.
me, yeah. So for me, as usual, we are going on every Saturday for cricket. So that's continuing for gym. It's mostly on and off basis. Not able to consistently go. Uh, so I'm going to try again this week. Workout, I think I just have going to since I'm going on vacation, I have to handle a few stuff. So probably I'll most of the next 2 weeks hand over part of it. Um, uh, then I mean that's it. Like just gearing up for vacation. This summer we did not go anywhere, so this like a long anticipated one. So that's from
Congratulations.
my side. Thank
Wendy, you want to go next?
For me, I'm having blood work done this week on Wednesday. Tuesday is exterminator day, and Thursday is yoga, and I think that's it. That's other than my usual keep up with the exercise and all my reading and studying and that sort of thing. That's it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking forward to we're having a barbecue with some new neighbors tonight, and I'm looking forward to there's a concert at the Arboretum tomorrow that Rich and I and some friends are going. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to work on my book, and I did send out, I think last week I said I would send out the recommendations to the peer mentoring project. I did do that. And I will continue my exercise. And and relationships. I will continue to have excellent relationships, especially with everyone, especially my husband. And I will do week 4 of the happiness of this class. Do we want to continue reading this document, or do we want to go on to the next, find something else?
I figured we'd finish it until the end.
Okay. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Great.
Awesome.
That's
it. Guys, that's it for them today.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
and yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.